let me call back on the audio and video.
What?
I'm going to call you right back. Hold on.
All right. I can see you now.
Okay. Hello. Okay, you're live, so we're going to start here shortly.
All right, awesome.
Okay. Well, at the moment, I can't address a chairman since we don't have one, so we probably need to take care of that order of business first thing. So I'd ask the board to, amongst yourselves, decide who'd you like to run the show this evening and kind of appoint a chairman amongst yourselves.
At this point?
Certainly.
Okay.
Well, don't we have to call the meeting to order to do that, or?
Well, I thought we'd talk about first the microphones, just kind of off the, and then we can do that afterwards. Since this is your first time at this meeting.
You want to go ahead and call roll? Let's do that, yes.
Okay, all right. Douglas Raymond,
Here.
Desmond Wassel,
Here.
Joe Elliott,
Here.
and Joseph Titich.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum this evening. Now, if the board would like to discuss amongst yourselves, who'd you like to have be a chairman this evening, or be the chairman for this evening's meeting? If there's any nominations, that would be awesome.
I'd like to nominate Chairman.
I'll second it.
Mr. Titich, you willing to do that this evening for us?
Yes.
All right, you want to call roll on
Do I
that?
have to call the roll on that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Douglas Raymond,
Here.
4.
4. 4.
Desmond Wassel,
Or
Joe Elliott,
4.
Mr. Titich needs to vote
Mr.
too.
Titich.
Congratulations.
That's how you get volunteered.
Easy.
You want to ask for any public participation? Ask for public participation that does not involve any of the new business issues. So they can,
Bear with us here.
any participation from any of the audience that doesn't pertain to any of these things if they want.
Do I need to open this?
No, no, just say that this is participation.
Okay, we're doing public participation here.
No, just say if there's anybody here.
Okay, if there's any member of the public here that wishes to address any items that appear on the agenda, you're welcome to do that this time. Can I do that? Okay.
And just for clarification, these are, the chairman is asking for if anybody in the room would like to speak on unagended items. You'll have a chance to speak to agended items when that case comes up at the appropriate time.
You might want to say now, if you have agenda items, bring up a card.
Okay. In addition, if you have any agenda items that you'd like to have addressed here, and you have a card filled out, we ask you to bring.
You said if there was anything not on the agenda, I was just gonna ask a question.
I think
It's for non-agenda items right now.
Yeah, if you have a general question, you can come up to the microphone and ask
Sure.
ask the chairman.
It's just I heard so many rumors, I thought I'd ask.
Very good. We'll do our best to answer.
I live on Washington Avenue, and we keep hearing, we live across from the Palms East, and lots of stuff going on over there and looking really bad. And I keep hearing that it's not gonna be there in a couple of years, or just was wondering what's going on.
I'll have to defer to Mr. Dickey on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I'm not aware of any projects or redevelopment opportunities there on that piece of property. We'd certainly like to see something happen there. We have met with the owner several times and indicated the city would certainly be a partner with the redevelopment project, a financial partner, to the extent we can. But no, as far as there being a specific proposal or anything submitted to the city, no, I'm not aware of anything like that.
I was just curious because it's very close to the beach, and as property owners, we pay a little more for the property. It just, I hear there's a lot of Section 8, and some people, they're paying practically nothing over there.
Yeah, it's a prime redevelopment piece of property due to its location, the size. We don't have that many large tracts in the city. And as a matter of fact, the city council recently approved an ordinance about 6 months ago to incentivize the redevelopment of multifamily properties. And I won't go into all the details about that, but we're certainly trying to dangle some carrots out there for multifamily projects, of which this is one of the main ones in the city, so.
Keep our fingers
Thank
crossed.
All right, does anybody else have anything they want to present at this time? All right. All right, we'll address new business at this time. The approval of the minutes, March 2nd, 2017. And do I hear a motion to,
I've read it, I have no corrections. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
I second the motion.
all right, all in favor?
Call the roll.
Pardon?
Call the roll.
Oh, call the roll. Okay,
Douglas Raymond,
Four.
Desmond Wassel,
Four.
Joe Elliott,
4.
Joseph Titich.
4. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to jump in here just for a
Please,
second.
please do.
Typically, well, I shouldn't say typically, our city code requires that on an annual basis, each of our boards elect a chairman and a vice chair. And since this is the first time this board has met in 2018, this would be a matter of business. I know we don't have all the members here this evening, but so an option is to push this particular item off into a future meeting. But that's totally the board's prerogative this evening. If you'd like to act on this item, you certainly can do that this evening. So I just wanted to let you know about that.
I'd like to act on it now.
I would too.
Absolutely.
It makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Floor is open for nominees for the
Chairman first.
chairman or for the chairman?
Both.
Well, chairman first. We'll do them separately.
All right.
Joseph Titich.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Are there any other
Are
nominations
there
for
any
the?
other nominations? Very good. You've done this before.
Call the question.
Call the roll.
Call the roll.
Joe Elliott,
Yes.
Desmond Wassel,
Yes.
Douglas Raymond,
Four.
and then Joseph Titich.
4 and accept.
All right. Well, congratulations.
I feel very honored.
Good.
Now we'll need to do the same thing for vice
For
chair.
Vice Chair.
I would like to nominate Joe Elliott for vice chair.
I second the motion.
Okay, hang on a second. Give me 1 second here.
Are there any other nominations? All right. I guess Patsy, we can call the roll when you get ready.
Give me 1 second, please. Okay, so the motion was by Douglas and second by Desmond. Okay. Joseph Titich,
4.
Desmond Wassel,
4.
Douglas Raymond,
4.
and Joe Elliott.
4.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations, and thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just do one order of business?
Please.
Yeah, this is the first time this board has had a chance to meet in the new facility, so I just want to just briefly orient you on several things. The first is the microphone in front of you. I'm not sure if the little green light is on there, but if it's not, your microphone is dead. There's a button you can push on the front of the stand. That's what activates the mic, turns it on and off. So when you do want to speak, you make sure that green light is on. You can keep it going all the time, but just know that these are pretty sensitive microphones, so if you do say something, it may not be off the record. Also, the city has taken the step of broadcasting all of our meetings. So we are currently under, we're being broadcast, live streamed right now from the control box back there. It's on Periscope, and I believe we're also live on Facebook and maybe another one. So, so just be aware that the meeting is being televised, and I can't tell you how many people are watching this evening. It's generally not a lot, but you are being broadcast. Let's see, and we all, I'm sure most of the folks in the room have been here in the building before, but we have 3 exits to the council chambers. The restrooms are there on the way out, going right by towards the front doors, right there on your right, ladies and men, and I think there's a water fountain there as well. So, anyways, that's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Very good, thank you. All right, Mr. Dickey, I would invite you to address the... I'll read it, okay. The item number 3 on our agenda tonight is for a quasi-judicial and or public hearing motion. Variance request number 18-01, parcel ID 243723-CG-4-3. Rick Parker, applicant, has requested a variance approval to allow for a side yard setback in the R2 zoning district from the required 8 feet to 7 feet 3 inches as established in section 110-297A, City Code. Mr. Dickey, care to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And again, welcome everybody this evening. It's nice to have folks in the audience. And what I will do is what I typically do is I'll go through a series of slides and photos, and those will all be shown to you in your individual monitors up in front of you. And they'll also be shown here on the 2 big monitors so the audience can follow along as well. So let's just jump right into it. This is an aerial of the site. Obviously, north is going up towards the top of the page. The subject parcel that we're looking at this evening is indicated in red. Washington Avenue is there, the road that's running east and west. The multifamily project is just north of Washington Avenue. You can see the kind of the southern portion of it. So that's just kind of an indication of what we have there. Mostly single-family residences there in this specific part of the city, other than to the north, where there's a large multifamily complex. Street view. This is a slide I took today, as a matter of fact. This is showing the property, which is there on the left, and it's showing the property line, a shot down the property line between the subject property and the adjacent neighbor, which is there to the right. This is the opposite property line on the west side of the subject property, And again, I'm just trying to give you an indication of the proximity of the homes, and just get a feel for that. This is a survey of the property, and this is included in your packet. Again, this was part of the application. We do require a survey, and the reason we're here this evening is because of what this survey is showing us. If you look on the western property line, which is, if we're looking at that, that would be over here on your left for the people in the audience. You can see that there's an encroachment, and what that means is our setbacks, our buildings, our homes in the city of Cape Canaveral, in this part of the city, are required to be 8 feet away from the property line. Well, you can see here that this building is 7 foot 3 inches away from the property line. So it encroaches into that 8-foot setback by 9 inches. And that's really what we're here to talk about this evening. This is the elevation of the, this doesn't specifically have to do with the variance request this evening, but I thought it would be good background information for the board as well as the folks in the audience to see what's being proposed. It is a 2-story single-family structure. It is, you can see that the elevated portion of the second story will be on the west side of the property, and it'll slope down to a single story on the to the east. The upper part of the elevation photo is the eastern elevation. The one right below that in the middle is the western elevation. And on the bottom, on the left bottom, is going to be the rear elevation, and then in the right-hand bottom corner, that will be the front elevation of the proposed structure. And there's a little bit of a blow-up, so we can have just a little bit better feel for what we're looking at. Okay. I'm going to go back to the survey, and I'm going to go ahead and read the staff report. The owner is requesting a variance of 9 inches to the required 8-foot setback, which would result in a 7-foot 3-inch side yard setback on the western property line. The variance will facilitate the construction of a second story to the existing single-family home. Based upon information that I was able to glean from the property appraiser's office, the existing structure was built in 1960. The applicant did purchase the property last year in 2017. The submitted survey does show that the existing structure does not meet the 8-foot setback because it is at 7 foot 3. However, it should be pointed out that the structure was built prior to the incorporation of the city back in 1960. The city was incorporated in 62, 63 area. So at the time when it was built, it would have had to have met probably county zoning requirements, since there was no such thing as the city of Cape Canaveral at that time. So the subject property is what's considered a lot of record, and it is non-conforming because the structure does not meet the side setback, nor does it meet the minimum square footage in our zoning code. Our zoning code says that a single-family home has to be 1,100 square feet. Well, this particular house currently is 900, I think it's 906, as I recall. So that's a little bit of a problem as well. Section 11037 of the City Code establishes criteria that must be evaluated when a variance is being considered, and we'll go over that in detail here in just a second. The property is zoned R2. Which is similar to all the property surrounding it. Again, single family to the east, west, and south, multifamily to the north. Let's go through a few of the attachments in your packet. Attachment 1 is an aerial. It's the same aerial that I showed earlier in the presentation. part of attachment 1 is a street view. It's not a very good street view. The ones that I showed earlier are much better. Attachment 2 is the actual application that was submitted, and it gives a lot of the background information, the applicant, what's specifically being asked. And also, the application includes a worksheet. And you can see if you page through that, on it's 3 page, the applicants filled this out. It's pages 1, 2, and 3, that they responded to the 7 criteria that must be evaluated when we're considering variances. The next page is a plat map, and it continues in some additional plat maps, and there's a warranty deed showing that the applicant purchased the property back in 2017. Then the elevation. Attachment 3 is the survey, which we've already looked at. Attachment 4 is the important document. I'd like to go over that a little bit more in depth. And again, these are the criteria that our city code establishes that the Board of Adjustment needs to look at when we're considering a variance. And I will go through these one at a time because these are really important. Excuse me, I said there were 7, there's 6 of them. The first criteria, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are unique to the land, structure, or building involved and are not applicable to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same district. And the response is that the subject parcel is considered a legal nonconforming lot as it was platted prior to the incorporation of the city. According to the materials in the application, when the house was originally constructed, it did not meet setback requirements. Furthermore, the city permitted the enclosure of a carport in 1987 despite its encroachment into the side yard setback. Number 2, that literal interpretation of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district and would cause unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. In response to that, this area of the city contains many residential structures which were built prior to the incorporation of the city. Certain properties and/or structures do violate current zoning standards, specifically setback standards. And rather than go through reading all of these numbers, the next paragraph just deals with a survey of setbacks in the immediate area. And basically what that survey is telling us is that most of the homes here in this neighborhood currently do not meet setback requirements. Number 3, that the special conditions and circumstances referred to in item 1 do not result from actions of the applicant. In response, again, this area of the city contains many residential structures that were built prior to the incorporation of the city. A previous owner built the home at which time the setback encroachment was created. Number 4, that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privileges that are denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. In response, approval of the requested variances would not confer any special privilege on the applicant. As indicated above, many of the structures in the neighborhood do not meet current setback standards. In fact, granting the variance will allow the construction of a second story, a right available to other owners in the area. Number 5, that the reasons set forth in the application justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance, if granted, is the minimum that would make possible use of the land, building, or structure. In response, the applicant has provided relevant and appropriate arguments that do speak to the requisite criteria. This request does not further encroach into the side yard, but maintains the existing setbacks. Furthermore, the requested variance will allow for a second-story addition which is only elevated on the west side of the structure, thus minimizing the bulk of the structure. And number 6, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning code, will not be injurious to the neighborhood and otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. And in response, the requested variance will facilitate the redevelopment of the property, which will result in a structure of significantly higher value. This will have a positive impact on the neighborhood and may lead to further investment by surrounding property owners. The redevelopment of the site will bring a non-conforming structure, does not meet minimum square footage when that statement is being made, into compliance with the zoning ordinance. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I can answer those. I know the applicant is here, and he has a presentation that he's prepared. So I can
Okay.
turn it back over to you.
Before we do continue, I was wondering if our attorney on the video here, is it possible for you to mute your microphone on your side there?
1 minute. Okay, you getting interference?
Pardon me?
Yeah, we're getting a little.
Want me to mute it?
Yes, yes. Thank you. I believe at this point, is it, okay. The applicant is here. Parker, do you have any comments you'd like to present to the?
Yeah, I can add just a couple things.
Please.
Just make sure that green light's on the microphone, if you would, please.
I will, Patsy, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt just a second?
Please.
I'm sorry for all these interruptions. We probably need to swear everybody in. If you're going to speak this evening, typically our city attorney does that. So, Anthony, are you prepared to swear everybody in? If those of you in the audience that think you're going to speak this evening, if you'd like to stand, our city attorney can kind of en masse swear everybody in.
Yep. Just let me know when everybody's standing.
Okay.
Whoever's testifying, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you're duly sworn.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, please, continue.
Okay. I think Mr. Dickey has covered most of the thoughts. My name is Rick Parker. I'm here representing my wife, Karen Parker, and our plan was simply to build a house that would improve the neighborhood and be a place that we would feel comfortable in. And I think if you take a look at the report that the building department has done, you'll see that almost none of the properties are 8 feet back. In fact, I couldn't find any that were set 8 feet from the setback line when I was going through that. The other thing to keep in mind on this property is that if you look at the survey will show that the property, the lot itself is a bit crooked, but on top of that, the footprint of the house, excuse me, was set cockeyed. So at the time that the building department in October of 1987 or thereabouts, approved the conversion, I'm gonna kill this thing, conversion of the carport to the garage, they allowed that to be put into that 9 inches into that west side yard setback. Otherwise, we would have been in compliance today. The distance between our yard and the house just to the west of that is at the point where it's the nearest to each house. It's roughly 8 feet from my house to the property line, and from the house to the west, which is Miss Ellis's house, it's roughly 6 feet, 10 inches from her house to that same property line. We are just simply trying to do what the city mission, the vision, talked about in the statements that, the vision statement, things such as a welcoming residential view of the community, trying to include shady streets, tearing down blighted properties and improving them. So that's our intent. If you did look down one block east to the 500 block, you will see that there's roughly 4 or 5, maybe even 6 houses, but the rest of those 50-foot lots that were originally plotted in 1921 have been divided to 25 by 125-foot lots for duplex townhouses. And so I just toss that out because that seems to go with what we're trying to talk about here. If you have any questions for us or my wife, I do have some photos of the area. I'm gonna move this way, guys.
Okay.
The photos in the four corners are the property directly to the east and west, each, the two properties to the east and two properties to the west. The pictures down the center show what the property looked like when we purchased it, and then the one in the middle of that center row is what it looks like today. I also have a mock-up of the front and rear elevations and the floor plan if you'd like to see that as well. I don't know
Right,
that that
very
would
good.
influence one or the other.
All right, if we decide to ask for that, we will take a look at that.
Sure.
Any other comments?
I don't think so, Karen. No, thanks for your time. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Anybody here have any questions for Mr. Parker?
Yes,
Excuse me, go ahead.
go ahead. Are you planning to completely demolish, or are you going to just stay with the footprint and then?
No.
How are you going to go from that to what we have on the paper?
Yeah, the footprint actually on the lower level goes to 1,400, I think it's 57 square feet. We're going to be removing several walls or portions thereof to reposition windows and that type of thing. So there will be several walls removed, but essentially the garage and that area will not be touched. And then obviously the upper level is all new.
Yeah,
So we'll end up meeting the zoning requirements for minimum lot coverage, but we won't exceed it. I think that's at 35%, so.
Most of the new square footage is going to come from, the house is going to be extended to the south, so it's going to go
To the back.
into the backyard.
Okay.
I can, let me put this up.
Right, but the encroachment that's being talked about here is right here, that's not being changed at all.
I got it.
Desmond, you need it?
Desmond, you had a question?
Yes,
Come up to the mic, please, so we can.
I'm
make-
sorry,
That's okay.
very soft-spoken person. Just ask my wife. You mentioned in the worksheet, not to do this would place an unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That's correct? Is it your intent, well, it's in the revocable family trust, as I understand.
Yes, it is.
Is it your intent to live there, once you build this place, to live in the house?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
My wife's family, most of her family is from Florida, and we've lived Colorado, Utah, Nevada over the last 30 years, and thought it was time to get her home,
Okay, so
or
this,
get in trouble one way or the other.
this would be looking downstream as your home?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, this is home.
We'll have an opportunity later to ask any other questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen.
Have anything?
I'll just make a comment as well. As mentioned here just a moment ago, just want to make sure everybody understands that the adjustment that's being requested has nothing, will not be changed by the improvements to the property. Mr. Dickey, you confirm that? Concur with that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would. The footprint of the structure is not going to change, except to the rear of the
Yes,
property. The side footprint's not going to change. The encroachment is not, it's not going to further encroach into either of the side yard setbacks. So yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Parker, one other thing. How soon did you plan on starting this improvements?
Last year about this time?
Last year? You're a little late.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, very good. I don't have any other comments from here. Invite anybody else that wishes to have any other comments, please come to the podium. Oh, excuse me, Dolores Ellis? Yes, please come on.
Well, the only thing that I have to say is I live on the west side of it,
You say it'd be in your front door, can you expand on
My
that?
front door faces their property.
So your front door faces east, is that correct?
Front door on the north,
Okay,
but my front door goes out right into their property. Right in on that side of the house.
Can we see that picture again? Do you have that picture?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. This is the.
Yeah, you had a picture of it, didn't you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you're in 405?
Yes,
this doesn't show.
and my front door opens to that fence.
Yeah, but, so on this picture here, your front door is there?
That is my,
Over here?
yes, it opens up to that fence.
Okay,
That's my
and
actual
here's the
front
road.
door.
Okay,
Yes.
and then,
All right, we're good. Is it not true, though, that your front door faces their residence anyway at this time? But you're saying,
My front door that goes out my living room faces their property.
I understand. Okay. Yeah, this request for variance is not for the improving the property. It's only for the variance, or approving the variance of the property footprint itself. Follow what I'm saying there?
No,
Mr. Dickey, can you help on that?
Yes. Yeah, the situation we have now is we have a non-conforming structure. I mean, the structure does not meet the current setback of 8 feet. It's at 7 feet 3 inches. So, in order to put a second story on that, basically that second story would be encroaching into obviously they're not gonna, right, obviously if we required it at 8 feet, it would be kind of a stair step. The first floor would go to 7.3, and then we'd have to stair step 9 inches into the house and then go up for the second floor. And that is, I think, would be impossible from an engineering standpoint. So the reason that we're here this evening is to allow for a 9-inch variance for the entire house. What we're doing, we have a non-conforming structure because it doesn't meet the setback. We're asking the board this evening to consider giving them a 9-inch variance so the house will be what's called conforming. Both the first floor and the second floor will be conforming. And that's really what we're here doing, is asking the board, is it appropriate in this situation for this home to be at 7'3" versus 8 foot? And I think it's important also to note too that the request is decreasing the level of nonconformity of the structure, because we have as I said earlier in the staff report, we've got a house that's 900 square feet. That doesn't meet the minimum square footage of this zoning district, which is 1,100. So the request is, what I'm trying to explain is it's decreasing the level of nonconformity. One of those nonconforming aspects of the house would go away if this is approved this evening, through as a result of the second floor being built.
so, Ms. Ellis, I understand what you're saying is that with this second floor there, that's going to decrease the sunshine and it's going to more of a shade. Yeah, it's going to be on your side of the house. But if Mr. Parker were to not have to take the variance, I'll just move my house over 9 inches, he could still build it 2 stories. So there's nothing non-conforming about the second story. So our issue is the setback, and the setback is already there. So we wouldn't be increasing that setback. So he can legally build up as it is now, so.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else?
Is it okay for the board members to ask questions at this point?
Very good, please.
Okay. When you bought the property, were you aware that there were these limitations? I'm sorry, Patsy, I did it again.
Gotta get a little closer.
When you purchased the property, were you aware of this restriction? Okay. Is there,
Mr. Wassel, just to help answer that question.
Yes.
This issue really came about when they came in with their building plans, and that's when we caught it. So that's why he's, the applicant and his wife are about a year behind, because we've been,
but you were aware at the time that the other houses on that block especially were of it having the same problem?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that's because of the timing when they were built, and I understand that part. And this is I just may as well come out and ask, can you tell me if the homes on that lot, on that block, for instance, are owner occupied or rented or some mix of the two?
I believe it's mostly owner occupied. I know the neighbors, that's not true. I would say about 60% of it is owner occupied. I think the houses at the corner of the Western Street, those folks, the Ellis family, are owner occupied. And then we go to our house, which we've kind of gutted at this point. The next house, which I think is 417, that is a house that probably is going to have to be torn down at some point. I had pictures of that. Then you have Ms. Munster's house, my brother-in-law's house, and then Bonnie Nord's house. All of those are either owner-occupied or family-occupied at this point. The last house on this street is a rental, a duplex rental. I don't know how large the lot is, but it's non-conforming, I do know that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to applaud you for improving the appearance or attempting to improve the appearance of the neighborhood. We need more of that around here. My only, say, structural comment to your building plans, and I don't know if it's in there because the detail isn't there. Once you get a second story on the west side, the watershed is going to be more directed into your neighbor's property. And I would like to see, if you haven't planned it, but if you have, that'd be great if you have gutters and downspouts from there. That would help that water flow.
We had thought gutters and downspouts, but we also are thinking about putting a French drain along either side of the property to try to move any water off the property that accumulates.
Very good. I think that would be very good as far as for neighborhood and for the neighbors also. So.
Right. We also plan to do mostly, or wherever we can, wherever it's allowed, trying to do things that'll allow water to absorb through the surface as opposed to a bunch of concrete. So,
excellent.
If that helps.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add to Mr. Raymond's point on these infill projects, and we're starting to see more of them now, which is a great thing. But we do pull our city engineer into the review of the plans, of the building plans, specifically for this issue. Because in the past, what's happened is sometimes these lots will be on different elevations, and that's exactly what happens is it sheds, there's a sheet flow onto adjacent properties, and it becomes a big problem. Mm-hmm. Well, John Picard, our city engineer, specifically reviews these, and oftentimes he'll require a little bit of a swale on the side properties to convey that water, typically either out to the street, into the public stormwater system, and sometimes if the lot is running to the backyard, he'll require a small retention pond back there. But But yeah, that has been a huge issue in the past, but we are specifically looking at that now.
I think it's nice that you're doing this, and it's going to make the street look better there. There's some of the places look a little dilapidated over there, so this will be a good improvement to the neighborhood, I believe.
If you go down to the 500 block, 535, 537, I believe, they've already renovated those. And that's kind of the reason we decided to purchase on this street,
Yeah,
because of the renovations that are already done.
sounds good all around.
All right, any further discussion on the board here? All right. Okay, is there a motion to approve the variance request at this time?
So move.
Second?
Call the roll, Patsy.
Who's second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Desmond Wassel,
What are my options besides for or against?
I believe that's your only option. There are only two options. I'm not sure you can abstain unless you have a specific. Oh, Anthony, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, each board member has to vote unless they have a voting conflict of interest. So the choices are you vote for or against the motion that's on the floor, unless you have a voting conflict in which you would have to abstain.
That being the case, and I don't have that, I will vote for.
Joe Elliott,
4.
Joseph Titich,
Four.
and Douglas Raymond.
4.
All right.
Like that's it.
All right. At this point, we'll adjourn.
A motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
You all in
I
favor?
think we can do an all in favor on that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
You're adjourned.
Very good.